Hey, what's up, YouTube? I am back. I wanted to talk about this Nipsey Hussle thing real quick. A lot of people talking about it. I actually don't know nothing about Nipsey Hussle, so I'm not one of the Nipsey Hussle bandwagon Negroes, But I do think that this situation brings up a discussion that needs to be had about the music industry. I actually wanted to talk about this before because I saw a documentary on Sam Cooke on Netflix that you guys should check out if you haven't. I think it's called, is it called The Two Deaths of Sam Cooke? Something or other. It's a Sam Cooke. It's really good. Like it's a good documentary because it really is a good example of why that discussion needs to be had as far as black ownership, you know, having ownership of our music, of any type of industry that we create, we should own it, versus being at the begging at the will of the white industries and taking their crumbs, which is what most of our people are doing. Even the ones you think are successful in the industry, they they don't own their work is owned by somebody above them. And so it was interesting if you look at Sam Cooke, right? You know, I already knew that his death was suspicious, and the reasons that they gave for why he supposedly got shot, I always thought were bogus. I never bought the story. And I always wondered if I always knew something was up with it, but they don't always talk about why someone want to take Sam Cooke out. And there's things I'm not gonna get into the whole Nipsey Russell. You're hearing a lot of stuff about the conspiracies, Illuminati and these different things, sacrifices and stuff. Like I said, I don't know anything about the man, so I can't speculate on. I don't know enough about the man to say if that's the case with his death or not. But I do know that when it comes to black people in the music industry making certain moves, there has been some questionable circumstances that happen to these people, and this is a pattern that's been going on for a minute. Like if you look at Sam Cooke, he actually started out, before he was big time and got with a big time white record label. He was dealing with the what was called the Chitlin circuits, which was the little pocket areas where it would be black artists singing black music for black people, and our people would go and other people would know about it. But this was something that was ours, and this was something that was not mainstream and big time, but it was something that was ours. And on a small scale, it was something popular amongst our people. you know so I guess he had a father that was a preacher, and so his father was discouraging him from going to Hollywood and trying to make it big time, because he said you'd sell your soul or whatever. And so he tried to discourage him, but he wanted to do it anyway. And the documentary shows that at the time, I guess it was, as far as when Sam Cooke was young, I think it was the 40s or 50s, maybe early 50s or so. It shows that there were successful black businesses in different areas around the nation. Like we talk about Black Wall Street. A lot of people don't know that there was a lot of independent businesses and, small industry type of movements going on with black folks. You know what I'm saying? Even though it was a small scale, we still had some type of ownership of stuff that was ours. And we had some communities that were ours that, our people knew about. This was before integration. So once he signed with the big contracts and with the big record labels or whatever, he had it where he owned his own masters. Now, this is something people don't realize about the industry. They have it where, you know, you see the black artists and you think they're making a lot of money and all that, but you have to understand it's the record labels that own the masters. In other words, you don't own your own music. Now, some have tried to fight that. Now, what they're saying about Nipsey Hussle is that he was big on black empowerment. And I think that's great. From what I understand, he was into, you know, black businesses, and he was starting a lot of black businesses and trying to bring those to the hood where he grew up and things like that. I think that's great. You don't see celebrities doing that. So definitely I think that sets him apart from your average celebrity, which need to get taken out in such a way. Now, is it that it was a rival gang person that was just a hater? Could be. I don't know. Like I said, I don't know too much about it. But I did want to talk about this whole music thing because it's interesting when it comes to this. Because if you notice, like with Sam Cooke, you know, he actually tried to create a black label where he was going to sign black artists. And so this would have been something that was specifically for black people, and he was about black empowerment. If you take away, you know, with these stars and stuff, if you put aside all of the other things about them as far as their personal characteristics or what the media says about them, and you just look at their moves business wise, you'll start to see some patterns. Like they'll say Sam Cooke was out, picked up a woman and was, acting crazy and got himself shot, basically, to make a long story short. And it's just I don't even want to get into that part of it. But anyway, it's funny this happened, after he tried to make those basically power moves in the music industry. And these are things that you can't do. It seems that these are things that people don't, that the industry don't want to happen. They want to control all of the black celebrities, and they want to profit off of their art. And you don't see many people like Nipsey who would talk about doing things for black people. People say, how come Oprah and all these people don't talk about, doing things for black people? I think there's a reason for that, because they're really not supposed to. So there is something definitely, dark and devious going on with the music industry. I'm not going to get into the whole, Illuminati and all that stuff, but I will say this. You also had the situation with Michael Jackson, where, again, putting aside all the, if you just look at his business moves and put aside all the other stuff for right now, as far as the child molestation and all that, and the craziness, if you look at his business moves, he bought he bought a catalog where he had a lot of the music of a lot of Sony artists. So he essentially bought, I think, half of Sony's music catalog, right? So he owned a lot of other artists' music per se, but he spoke out about the music industry mistreating black artists, toward the end. Like, you can see him talking about that. They're not telling you what they're showing, but what they're showing is he actually was trying to form some type of a group where, black artists they were trying to have it where black artists could get together and own their own masters, aside from what the record labels were doing. This is why he wanted to leave Sony, because he wanted to have his own label. So that's what he had planned to do when his contract with Sony was up. And it's funny, his contract with Sony, his last year of the contract was that year, the same year they gave him all those concerts, right? That he was supposed to do. And that was the year that he, I'm just saying. I'm just saying. So, you could say, "Oh, you're being a conspiracy theorist or whatever," but if you just look at what they did and what happened, and you see a pattern, you can see there definitely is something going on. And then you got Prince. That's another one. Prince was at war basically with Warner Brothers for years because he also thought it was unfair that he couldn't have the rights to his own music and his own masters or whatever you want to call it. This is why he did the whole thing where he changed the name from Prince and all that. You started to see him, doing things where he would write slave on his face and things like that because he was essentially at war with his label. And it's funny, that lasted for years. And I don't even know if he got the masters or not, but he wanted, I think he was trying to get, he was still trying to control, I guess, some element of the money you get for the music. Like he was, I don't know if it was the masters, but he was trying to still have a controlling end of what you make for your music. He had a problem with the music industry and Warner Brothers for this. His case, or he was suing them for like, it took years, and it's funny that he finally won the suit with Warner Brothers. He actually won, right? But, soon after that, what happened? He died, right? So now, if you notice, Warner Brothers is about to come out with music that hasn't come out yet, some of his latest recordings, and Warner Brothers will profit from that, and it won't be what Prince fought for. So in the end, the industry, Warner Brothers, wins. So it's sort of like these things are kind of, like I said, a pattern. And then you got Tupac. That's another one. And it's just funny, I don't know what happened with Nipsey, but I know that the whole thing with Tupac, again, if you look at some of his moves he was making aside from all the shenanigans, Tupac was tired of the music industry, and he wanted to a lot of the false media, and he wanted to have his own label. And this is one of the reasons why he was tired and was going to leave Death Row. This is why it's funny that people always connect Suge Knight with his death. I believe there's something to that because Suge Knight himself has admitted that Death Row was basically overrun by FBI agents. And the whole, killing of Tupac, it's already known and on record that the FBI was involved in that. So, that was more than just a gang hit or a drive-by like we're meant to think. So I'm just saying, when it comes to Black Power, you say, well, why aren't there Black people that are trying to use their fame and their fortune to do something that's going to empower Black people instead of just being used by white corporations? Well, there has been, but it doesn't always end up so good. You know what I'm saying? They don't want that. And so all I'm saying by all this is with Nipsey Hussle, I don't know what his situation is as far as what he was doing with his music. But if it was something where he was trying to get his own masters or have it where he was going to make it where the whites couldn't own his stuff and he would, then that definitely would be a reason for him to be taken out. I don't know. I'm just saying, But it's stuff like this why we got to start thinking as far as having our own. I always say this, like Black people, we're so used to being owned for so many hundreds of years that we don't have the mindset to think of owning things for ourselves. That's like out of, we can't even fathom that kind of stuff. For some reason, black people don't even think like that. Like you can have something of your own. Like I mentioned, the Chitlin circuit, you know what I'm saying? Like some things we had on small scale. Like and that's why I have a lot of hope for black folks, you know, as far as black power and black unity. People say it can't happen. People say they will always be oppressed in this country and we'll never, see ourselves in positions of, power or whatever because we'll never get it. I don't believe that because I see what we have done. Those, when you think about Black Wall Street and when you think about, like the Harlem Renaissance, and you think of what we had and what we produced for ourselves a very not so long time after slavery from nothing. We accomplished after the end of slavery, and our people were able to build their own industries and produce, their own different types of products and stuff on their own without stealing it, without enslaving anybody, without killing nobody. You understand what I'm saying? In a very short amount of time. So that shows the power and ability we have to build a nation in itself. So I'm very that's why I don't look at it as a hopeless situation for our people. Not at all. Once we get in a groove, we can fly, man. That's what I believe. But anyway, and another thing too, I was gonna say the whole R. Kelly thing. Don't know too much about his situation, but definitely he's been put out there. And if you put guilt and innocent to the side, if we put that to the side and look at his dealings with his label, he's at war with his label right now. He's not happy with not owning his masters and the money. He's kind of pissed off at them because they're making all the money. He feels like he should make all the money off of his work. You're not supposed to speak up about this stuff. So he is one of the ones that turns out has an issue with his label. I'm not saying I know if that's what's going on with him, but all I'm saying is I do see a pattern, and we can't ignore that there's a pattern as far as that concerned, with what's happening with black artists and celebrities. And so with Nipsey Hussle, I don't know, man. People talk about he was going to make the documentary about Dr. Sebi, and that's why they took him out, and they're comparing him with Lisa Lopez and things like that. I don't know. I definitely think that Dr. Sebi was taken out. I'll just say this. I think that his death was very suspicious. I'm gonna just say that. I don't know how, I'm not gonna get into, but I don't know. I don't know if that's a reason that they would take him out because he wanted to do a documentary. I don't know about all that. All I'm saying is if you look at people that want to empower black people when it comes to music or whatever, they end up being targets a lot of times. So, just something I've been thinking about. Like if it's good that they're finally doing justice to the brother as far as what happened to him, and that it was more to that story than just what they tell us. Well, just another crazy black man that was, out there doing whatever and got himself killed. And there's always more to the story than what the media puts out. Just like I'll say this about Nipsey Hussle. I know that the media is really pushing the idea of it being something gang related, with his death. They're pushing it. It's almost like they want you to think that. So that does make me think they're hiding something. And then you even have Suge Knight, who I just mentioned, saying the same thing, that, he got killed because he was trying to help his hood or whatever. And he's too close to the things I mentioned as far as some of the dark things that go on to be out there in that way, knowing full well, the way things work in the industry. So for him to come out like that at this time is a little weird. So I'll just say, this is why we got to start having conversations about, black only. People don't want to talk about that, but I think that people are sleeping on this. People aren't really interested in doing, people just want to be, part of America or helpers of America, included into America, but you don't own anything in America. Everybody else does. And people are okay with that. A lot of black folks are okay with it. I'm one of the ones that's not okay with it. And I think we can do better. So, check out that Sam Cooke documentary on Netflix. And, just wanted to share. So, hope y'all are doing all right. I will see y'all next time.